Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 75 of our WWE 2021 Save and TEW 2020. This is the Mae Young Classic Night 2, and as you can see from our beautiful graphic from Ben, yet again, this is our updated bracket heading into Night 2, where we will go through the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and crown a winner in the Mae Young Classic finals. And just another big props to Ben. Ben went through and made a graphic for every possible combination from the quarterfinals on. So that shows you his dedication to this series and to the Mae Young Classic. I didn't want to spoil it for him. He didn't want to be spoiled by what was going to happen. So rather than telling him, hey, just give me, a couple of these, Ben said, I'm going to make one for all the possibilities. So we have a graphic set for everything here, including this bracket here, as we march through this huge event, Night 2, Mae Young Classic. And I will say this up front. And normally I don't say this, but because this is going to be such a noteworthy show, if you are going to react to some of the developments in this show, in the comments, put like a spoiler tag or something, because I don't want anyone to get spoiled by what's going to happen in this show. So I'm going to leave it at that. And again, I don't care. Like, you guys can comment however you want, but I would say mark it, or maybe put a lot of spaces between your response and your reaction to this show. So rather than say anything else, let's jump into it, because this is Night 2 of the Mae Young Classic, and we immediately jump in and we go straight to the announce table, where Michael Cole throws it to video footage of earlier in the day, where Bianca Belair was apparently attacked backstage, and Belair just kind of trying to gather herself. We see WWE officials checking on her, and she's just like, I don't know what happened. Like, somebody hit me from behind, started stomping on me. That's all I know. And Belair certainly has her hints at who this could be. And so 69, a nice rating to start things off here, but clearly already setting up Belair attacked earlier in the day. And what does that mean for tonight's quarterfinal match with Bianca Belair versus Raquel Gonzalez? I bet you guys can guess where a little bit of this is going. And speaking of that, we immediately go to Pat McAfee, who is backstage with Mick Foley. And, Foley is the SmackDown commissioner, two SmackDown competitors in this match. McAfee wants to know what is Belair's status for tonight against Raquel Gonzalez. And Foley says, he's working hard on it. He's trying to figure out everything going on. But Foley says, Pat, you're not stupid. You know what I'm thinking here, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this as to what happened to Bianca Belair earlier in the day. He says, I don't know. Right now it's up in the air. I don't know if she's going to be able to compete tonight or not. So Foley walks off, and we get a 70 here for this one. And Foley going to get to the bottom of this. But as Foley walks off, Paige walks in, and it is McAfee asking Paige about her, surprising return. And, she said, look, I came back to prove that I'm better than ever. Everyone thought that I was never going to return, but here I am, beating Charlotte Flair, and now moving on to the next round to take on, as she says, a former friend of mine. And, we'll find out just how strong our friendship is with Sonya Deville, and, of course, Absolution, and all the ties that we've had there between these two before. Paige just kind of points that out, and McAfee says, all right, Sonya's been really good. She hasn't been beaten. And Paige says, hey, we know each other well, and, I'm going to go out there and take one more step closer to winning the Mae Young Classic. So a 73 here for this one, and that is going to lead us into our first quarterfinal match, Paige versus Sonya Deville. Again, there's history here between these two, but perhaps a little different here, as it is, Paige making her surprising return. Sonya Deville has been tag team partners with Shayna Baszler. What's going to happen? Here we go. Our first quarterfinal match with the winner moving on to the semis. And what do you know? Who could have saw this coming? As during the match, before, as everything's going on, we're having a nice little match here between Paige and Sonya Deville. Here comes Mandy Rose. And yes, if you guys have been following the save, I did officially change Mandy Rose's photo here to update it to her new look that she's had since we started the save. Again, we started this back in June of 2021. So we've updated it to our new sort of toxic attraction look here. And this is sort of your revamp for Mandy Rose. And Mandy eventually makes her ways down. What's going to happen here? Maybe she's just surveying the landscape. Nope. As she nails Paige with the referee's back turned, and that allows Sonya Deville to pick up the victory here in 750, and a turn by Mandy Rose is what leads us there. And again, Mandy was set up as a babyface going back all the way to when we started the save. So a 60 overall, a fine match. And, this was something that certainly I'm sure if you had been following WWE, kind of in that period and you saw how this was setting up, I just kept thinking, what's another way we can maybe add another kind of star to our women's division? And to me, it's kind of going back to, going forward, I guess, to what Mandy Rose is actually now in reality, and kind of adding her in. Because really, when you looked at Mandy, she's just been a jobber basically for us since we started the save. But now we have something she can sort of, sink her teeth into. She becomes a more important type of character, and that just gives us another person to work with now in our women's division. And so a reuniting of Absolution here, and a reuniting of Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. But at the same time, we kind of see when you take sides, it was Mandy who took Sonya's side, and that results in Sonya moving on in the tournament. So we are going to handle our changes here. Mandy Rose, she is going to officially turn heel. It's a complete success. So that works out there for us. So Sonya advances with an unbelievable turn here. Although I'm sure you guys could have saw it coming if you put all the pieces together. That's kind of how we did it. So 60 on that one. Sonya is in the semis. Meanwhile, it's Mick Foley backstage, and again, he is pointing the finger here at the Mean Girls, because you put two and two together. Raquel faces Bianca. We know we've kind of seen this behavior before from Raquel. When you really think about it, go back to Survivor Series, right? Where it was that's how Bianca got eliminated in that match, was Raquel basically getting her counted out and just kind of throwing her all over the place. Well, Foley is pointing a finger here, and Bliss, the usual Alexa Bliss, she says, "Okay, fine. Where's your evidence? Where's your evidence we had anything to do with this?" And Alexa's just standing there, running her mouth to Mick Foley. Raquel kind of standing in the middle, in her usual sort of stoic way. And meanwhile, behind them, you've got Dakota Kai, who is just kind of standing there looking away as Alexa is talking. And Dakota Kai just will not acknowledge Alexa Bliss talking here, and she's just looking away from everything. What does that mean? Well, we don't know, but a 67 for this segment, and Foley not happy with sort of the thoughts here from Alexa Bliss on this whole situation, but Alexa just keeps saying, "Where's your evidence? What are you going to do? You can't remove Raquel Gonzalez from this match. You have no evidence that she did anything." So Alexa just kind of going back and forth here with Foley, and that is our setup here. We're not going to do that. Then we go on to the next one, and it's McAfee with Rhea Ripley. The returning Rhea Ripley made a shocking return on night one of the Mae Young Classic, and she points out, Pat, I haven't forgotten about Sasha Banks, because this is kind of where it all started. If you go back to June, before the injury, everything was surrounding Rhea Ripley, Sasha Banks, and Bayley. That was kind of our triple threat we had in motion and set up for our big match to have at SummerSlam for the women's title. It never happened because of Ripley's injury. She had to give away the title, 74 here, and she hasn't forgotten about all the actions that Sasha Banks took against her. Even if Sasha is, a changed person perhaps, she hasn't forgotten about it. And so she's going out to basically get her revenge here on Sasha Banks, given the history involved there. So 74 on this one. And speaking of Sasha, she also, we get a promo from her backstage. She takes aim at Rhea Ripley and says, for everything Rhea wants to say, she's also been waiting on this match. Rhea's not the only one that's been wanting to get in the ring with Sasha Banks again. Sasha's been waiting on this match for months, and she's finally going to prove that she is better than Rhea Ripley, because she was going to do that from the start. She was going to beat her and win that championship from her before the injury, and Sasha says she's got a game plan, and she's going to use it going into this match against Rhea Ripley. So 71 here for this one, and it is officially set up for our second quarterfinal match. We have Rhea Ripley going up against Sasha Banks. There is history here. The last person, Rhea was in the ring with before the injury was Sasha Banks, and we've just got a lot in play here. So tying this in as well, we've done okay kind of tying in history here with some of these matchups we put together. So I really like how the brackets turned out. But a big match. Some would say maybe the biggest match of our quarterfinal round here. Rhea Ripley, Sasha Banks. Who advances to the semifinals? And in a nice match, a 69 here, it is Rhea Ripley seemingly getting her revenge on Sasha Banks. They go 14-36. The Riptide does it. And Rhea getting a strong connection with the young female demographic who liked her winning. That's good to know. But it's Rhea Ripley continuing this sort of improbable run to come back out of nowhere. She beats Shayna Baszler, who had previously been unbeaten. Now she beats Sasha Banks, who we know has been on a roll after kind of splitting away from Bayley. And now she is one step away from the Mae Young Classic finals. So a good match here, 69. I'm not upset with that. Like I said, it's sort of one of those things. Rhea too, her overness, I want to say, is like mid-60s now, probably. By the way, some of these people, after the first round of the Classic, I probably should have done this just to kind of give you an idea, but some people jumped, massive amounts in popularity after the first night. And I'm gonna talk about Becky in a second, because heading into this tournament, after night one, Becky Lynch is officially the most over star in our company. So that is worth noting as well. And I'll talk about that a little bit maybe after the show. But that was kind of stunning to me. But we've had a lot of people jump in popularity. But still, a 69, we'll take that. And Rhea Ripley advances now to the semifinals, where she will meet the winner of Bianca Belair and Raquel Gonzalez, which, speaking of that, is Bianca Belair going to be able to compete? Well, it's Mick Foley sort of walking away, and we see him, going down the hallway here, and he's trying to, again, figure out what's going on, and there he runs into a limping Bianca Belair, and Belair is, again, clearly not 100%. We can see that visually. She's just not all there right now in terms of being able to perhaps go out and have this match, but she says she's going to compete in this tournament. She's not going to let her fans down, and she's going to get her payback on Raquel Gonzalez, because she knows that Raquel had something to do with her being attacked. Whether it was Raquel, whether it was Alexa, whether it was anybody else, she knows that she had something to do with it. So Bianca kind of stepping up here as the underdog babyface now, essentially trying to compete in this match. And will she be able to pull it off and get the victory in this one and advance to take on Rhea Ripley in the semis? 72 here for this one, and it is officially set up. Raquel Gonzalez versus Bianca Belair. Raquel, maybe has the advantage here when you really think about it, because Bianca has been taken out before the match, not 100%. How's it going to go? Will it be Raquel getting the win, or will Bianca be able to, use this and kind of catapult her forward to finally get her ultimate revenge on Raquel, given the attacks we've seen in recent weeks and everything going on? Is this where Bianca kind of moves beyond Raquel and moves on to the semis? Well, here we go. So, before the match, it is Raquel Gonzalez. Bianca is kind of making her way down very slowly, and it is Raquel who just goes out to the outside immediately, and she just goes off on Belair, kind of like she did at Survivor Series. A very similar sort of theme here. And it's the same situation where she just uses her strength, she uses her power to overwhelm Bianca Belair, who, again, is not at her best right now. And then Raquel goes over, picks up Bianca Belair, and puts her through the announcer's table. So an unbelievable turn of events here, as Bianca's not even in the ring yet, and she's been put through the table. And so Bianca is down. Eventually, once again, everyone's just kind of wondering, is she going to be able to really go through with this? and she manages to make it into the ring, and then from there, it is all Raquel Gonzalez as she just basically takes it to Bianca Belair for 7 minutes here and then throws her back outside the ring again. And Bianca, each time, sort of valiantly trying to stay in this match, but finally Raquel just throws her out, beats her down, and Bianca cannot make the 10 count to get back into the ring. And Raquel Gonzalez, in a stunning upset, although I'm sure it's not that stunning to some people, is going to advance here to the semifinals of the Mae Young Classic. A 58 match, not great, but as I've said before, that's because of Raquel's overness. It's still not, where we need it to be. It's still at NXT levels, is what we like to call it. So it's getting there. But the fact is, I was really surprised that Bianca would even lose this match, to be honest with you, even by countout. Now, we did keep her strong, and that helped. But I was surprised Bianca would lose this because overness-wise, there's a big gap there. And, so this actually helps pretty well because now that means Raquel's going to get a little bump here in popularity, and that's kind of what we want, of course. So, I'm not shocked by the match rating here, but I was a little surprised when I put this in. I was like, okay, Bianca's actually going to lose this match. So I was not necessarily planning for that the whole time because I didn't think she would lose under any circumstance, but somehow we managed to make it work. And, so I think Raquel just getting the bump maybe on night one helped, but it was enough to where Bianca would do the job here, although she's not really doing the job. But there you go. So your SmackDown Women's Champion, she's out. And Raquel Gonzalez is advancing, and now we officially know one semifinal. Raquel, Rhea in the semis. What a big battle that's going to be. So that's set up for your semifinal matchup. Who's going to make up the other side of the semifinals? Well, we go here to Becky Lynch, who is backstage, and Becky cutting a promo, hyping up her match she's going to have with Alexa Bliss, and gets a 70 here for Becky. Good stuff. And, Becky just kind of saying, as she said before, she beat Asuka. She had the toughest first-round opponent, in her opinion, and now, she has to keep going, and that's what she's going to keep doing. She's going to prove, she's an example for all the women out there, for, her daughter, everything. Like, she is the man, and she has to keep proving that, and she's going to do that once again against Alexa Bliss. So Becky kind of set up here for her match against Alexa. Another big quarterfinal match we've got going on here, and that sends us to Pat McAfee, who is with Alexa Bliss. And McAfee questions, again, he's questioning Alexa Bliss. I'm going to ask the same thing Mick Foley asked. What did you have to do with this whole situation with Bianca Belair? And once again, Bliss just kind of ignores it, says, I'm not responding to that. And then she says, I'm going to do what Dakota Kai couldn't do, and I'm going to win a match in the Mae Young Classic tournament. So Bliss just continuing to kind of play this, she doesn't mind bullying Dakota Kai here. She just continues to do it. And it's like she has no regard for it. She doesn't care. She's just using Dakota Kai as her punching bag here. And, McAfee wants to know, well, where's Raquel? Are you going to have her at your side? She's like, well, Raquel came back. She went straight to the shower. She's getting ready for her next match. She's preparing for a big semifinal match against, Rhea Ripley now. So that's kind of the question here. And Pat's kind of insinuating, well, you're going to have more dirty work here where maybe Raquel comes out and attacks Becky Lynch. We'll see. But there is your setup. And Alexa Bliss very confident, seemingly, heading into this match with Becky Lynch. So it is official, Becky Lynch versus Alexa Bliss, the quarterfinal matchup. The winner moves on to take on Sonya Deville in the semifinals. Who is it going to be? Well, here we go as we officially jump into it. And in a nice little sync here in terms of our transitioning from one thing to another, Alexa Bliss makes her way down, Dakota Kai by her side, and somewhat similar to what we just saw with Raquel Gonzalez attacking Bianca Belair, it is Dakota Kai who finally makes her move and snaps and turns on Alexa Bliss and attacks her, throws her into the ring steps, and then we're just gonna act like there's the way it used to be, okay? With like the English announce table and the Spanish announce table. We're gonna act like they're both still there. So Raquel puts Bianca through the English announce table. Well, Dakota Kai goes over, puts Alexa Bliss through the Spanish announce table, and that has taken out both announce tables. But more importantly, it has taken out Alexa Bliss, who had been, kind of goading Dakota Kai into this eventually. We knew Dakota Kai was going to snap. Maybe it all just kind of turned last night after, Bliss scolded Dakota Kai for not being able to get the win against Belair. But it's sort of fitting here that sort of in similar fashion to what was done to Bianca Belair, Dakota Kai does the same to Alexa Bliss here. And yes, we get a 67. We are officially going to turn Dakota Kai, and she's going to turn babyface. It will change her gimmick. And we get a great gimmick for her using the Rebel one. I think I use the Rebel one a lot, but that just seems to be one that fits with everyone. So a complete success for Dakota Kai's turn. And then you know what that's leading to. Becky Lynch going to get the win over Alexa Bliss here. Again, I know this goes 15 minutes, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. Putting this show together was, it took a long time trying to be able to meet the match quality, or excuse me, like the, had to be 80% match and all that. And I had to find some room somewhere. And then there were some people where you kept getting penalized for, you kept getting the booking analysis. No, this person's being used too much. Well, I understand that because it's a one-night tournament and we're having to use people a lot. But I just had to kind of put this as a longer match. So we're just going to try to ignore that here, knowing that Alexa's pretty much taken out. And I don't think she's in a 15-minute match with Becky Lynch. But it gets a 72, and that is what's important there. So Dakota Kai finally makes the turn on Alexa Bliss, and Bliss sort of gets her comeuppance. Essentially, we're led to believe, Bianca Belair was unfairly eliminated in the tournament after being, taken out. Well, Bliss maybe suffers the same fate here as she is the one now taken out at the hands of her former, friend there in Dakota Kai. And now what happens moving forward? 72, Becky advances. So now our semifinals are set. Becky Lynch versus Sonya Deville. Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez. But speaking of Raquel Gonzalez, after the match, we immediately go back. And Raquel Gonzalez, who really has, as we've seen, and I've done this intentionally, has not really taken sides in any of this, right? Like all the Alexa Dakota stuff has kind of been on the side of everything going on, but she just sees what happens here. She's been preparing for a match. She sees what has happened, and she confronts Dakota Kai. She's like, "What the hell did you just do?" And Raquel and Dakota Kai, that bond's a bit stronger than Raquel's bond, perhaps, with Alexa Bliss because of the history and everything involved. But Raquel confronting her, just wondering, what have you done? And Dakota Kai doesn't say a word, just walks right by her and heads on out there. So that's your setup. 62. The Mean Girls have exploded here. And yeah, that's where things stand. So we got a lot of interesting directions, as you're going to see, coming out of this show with our women's division. But this is one of many that we have now. A lot of things to figure out when it comes to this. But speaking of Raquel, obviously, she has a big match coming up, and she could advance here to the finals of the Mae Young Classic, and we get Michael Cole kind of looking at the history between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez, and this is where I had to get creative because I kept getting the note that some of these people, Raquel included, were being used too much on the show, which, again, I had to try to fit some of this stuff in somewhere to be able to tell the story. So I had to get creative here, and so we went to the Michael Cole route that we've been using lately. Like, just throw Michael Cole in there. Let him do something. It's not going to get us a great rating, but it's what we got to do. So Cole looks at the history here between Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez going back to NXT, kind of the bond there, the friendship they've had before. And so that's our setup here as we head into a big match for a spot in the Mae Young Classic Finals. It is Rhea Ripley taking on Raquel Gonzalez. Raquel, as we've seen, has been a dominant force, and she has kind of gone along with Alexa Bliss's by any means necessary, kind of stance there. Rhea Ripley making her return. She's 2 matches in, though, and 2 tough matches against Shayna Baszler and Sasha Banks, coming off an injury. Can she actually keep this thing going and make it 3 wins and then be 1 win away from the Mae Young Classic final, or 1 win away from the trophy? Let's find out. Here we go. Raquel, Ripley, semi-final match. And it is Rhea Ripley defeating Raquel Gonzalez 7-19. The Riptide does it 64, so not a bad match here. Suffered from psychology. That's fine. We know we're going to get those notes sometimes, but that's okay. But the bigger story is that Rhea Ripley is now one win away from capturing the Mae Young Classic trophy, having being a shocking entrant into this tournament, and she has slayed sort of the giant here of Raquel Gonzalez. So we make this kind of a short match because again we had to get creative because we sort of kept getting the use too much note on for Raquel. So we had to get creative here, make this 7-19. So we, more of a power match. You're not expecting these two to go 25 minutes or anything anyway. So that is kind of what we went for here. But Rhea Ripley finally kind of handing Raquel her first loss, and she's come to the main roster here. And so that's significant in terms of her kind of losing her first singles match, and she does it against one of her friends, one of her peers from NXT. Rhea Ripley advances to the finals to take on the winner of Becky Lynch and Sonya Deville. 64 for this one. And speaking of that match, the other semifinal, it is Sonya Deville and company. So now we've kind of seen everything come together here. Sonya with Shayna Baszler and Mandy Rose. And they are running down, just talking backstage ahead of the semifinal match. Sonya just running down Becky Lynch, talking about how she's not on her level. And now that they've added a new piece to the puzzle, there's no one that's going to be able to stop them, just like they haven't been able to stop them before. But now that Mandy's back in the fold, there's no one that's going to be able to take them down, and that includes Becky Lynch. So Sonya taking aim at Becky here ahead of our semifinal match, and that is going to lead us into the other semifinal. Sonya Deville, Becky Lynch, one-on-one with a shot to go to the finals to take on Rhea Ripley in for all the marbles here, for everything. And I think this match could be really good because I think, again, Sonya, I said, against Kairi Sane, I think that she's someone that the skills are there, and you've seen how I pushed her before. Am I going to push her to the finals to take on Rhea Ripley and perhaps win this whole thing? Not quite. As Becky Lynch gets the win over Sonya Deville, 10:01 using the fast roll-up. I did do the flash pinfall for this one because we want to keep Sonya a little bit strong here. But we have been playing her up as sort of someone who has been unbeatable as sort of part of one half of the tag team champions and just everything involved. But really, at 80 to me, it's still, like I said, I think Sonya has really come through in a lot of her matches. But I know Becky plays a big role in this because of her popularity, but I'm telling you guys, like Sonya's stats and everything, that's the reason why I pushed her the way I have. Like, I know it's such a glaring difference, maybe seeing her in reality on like WWE television and stuff, like over the past, 6 months. But like in this game, like there is a lot to like about kind of being able to push her. And I've always thought she's been someone that's just really underrated overall. So I'm glad that we kind of, set this up here to get to an 80, but she's not going to advance to the finals. It is going to be Becky Lynch, who now sets up a huge match for our Mae Young Classic final, as it is going to be Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley. And now we throw it to our friend Michael Cole again, who's very busy on this show, and he has to be because we don't want to overuse anyone. A 64 for Michael Cole, looking at the highlights of the road to the final between Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley, and that is going to lead us to a backstage segment here, and I want you to kind of visualize this one as though it's like the Mark Henry Rampage setup, where we kind of throw it to the split screen, and we sort of see these two face-to-face, not actually standing there face-to-face, but kind of the split screen, and they both sort of talk about what this would mean to them to be able to win this Mae Young Classic. Becky pointing out again, she wants to be the example. She's proven it before. She's the man. And she knows now that she has her toughest challenge to date against Rhea Ripley, but she's still going to find a way to win this tournament and prove, that she has what, she is everything she says she is. And that leads us to Rhea Ripley, who's kind of pointing out she didn't ever know if she'd even make it back, not just for the Mae Young Classic, but make it back, period. When she tore, her Achilles, she didn't know if her career was over. But now she's come back and she says, I'm stronger than ever, and I've proven that thus far. I've beaten Shayna Baszler. I've beaten Sasha Banks. I've beaten Raquel Gonzalez. I mean, think about that. What a run she's had to this point. And now she says, I'm going to cap it off by beating you, Becky Lynch, and proving, that I am still who I've always been. And that is sort of the person that will unleash, hell on everyone and prove that I'm the best. So that's kind of Rhea's stance here. So it is set. 70 for this segment. And now we are officially ready for the finals of the Mae Young Classic. Becky Lynch, Rhea Ripley, one-on-one. I don't know how many people that thought maybe this would be the final, but I think the road to get here, as we saw, was filled with some twists and turns to get to that point. But, a lot of things sort of in motion to get to this big match. This is, to be honest with you, ever since I set out putting this tournament together, this was always going to be the final. There were never any changes that I made to putting this as the final. I did maybe go back and forth a little bit on the winner at times, but this was always going to be it. And I'll leave it at that. All right, let's jump into it. You'll see what I mean shortly. Let's get into it. Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley, the finals of the 2021 Mae Young Classic. Who will hoist the trophy? And it's going to be Rhea Ripley getting the win over Becky Lynch in 12:01. Another riptide, and she has done it, folks, in a 77. So a pretty good match here. I'll take that. Rhea Ripley has done the unthinkable. A shocking return all the way. No one thought she'd be back for 6 more months maybe, but a shocking return. And now, in the span of 2 days, she beats previously unbeatable Shayna Baszler. She beats Sasha Banks, one of her biggest foes. She beats Raquel Gonzalez, who was also previously unbeatable. And now she has beaten the man. Becky Lynch, and Rhea Ripley is your 2021 Mae Young Classic winner. And what a boost, I would think, popularity-wise, that's going to mean for Rhea Ripley. The strong connection with the female demographic. Everything kind of comes together here, and that is how we cap off the tournament, the 2021 Mae Young Classic, and we will have the trophy celebration on Raw tomorrow night. So you got to stay tuned to Raw to check out the trophy celebration after the match. It is Rhea Ripley who goes over and helps up Becky Lynch and just, raises her hand. A valiant effort. Both women exhausted. They put themselves, again, through everything to get to this point, to have this match. And this is sort of the defining moment for Rhea Ripley to beat Becky Lynch on a huge stage at the Mae Young Classic. And Rhea, just holding up Becky's hand, the crowd really cheering on. And then Rhea, even as the winner, Rhea says, she just kind of leaves the ring and just kind of bows down to Becky and, sort of sending, just kind of that, babyface, the mutual respect there. And Rhea walks down the aisle, hands raised, as the winner of the Mae Young Classic. And then that leads us to Becky Lynch, who is getting a standing ovation from the crowd. Everyone is cheering on Becky Lynch, and, again, I said it, she's the most over star in the company now. When you look at kind of our popularity ratings, she jumped all the way up to an 88 or an 89 in a lot of the areas, which would put her as the most popular active star on our roster. So everyone giving Becky a standing ovation. What a performance for her to get to this point. She comes up short in the Mae Young Classic final, but Becky Lynch, the crowd loves her, and they continue to cheer for her and, thank her for putting on this type of performance. And so the crowd loving Becky... Wait a second. Oh, my God. The crowd starts to stir, and they see someone slide into the ring, and there is someone wearing a hood. All of a sudden, Becky Lynch hears the crowd's noises. They hear the gasps from the crowd. And Becky turns around, and she turns right into a spear. And right after the spear, someone pulls off the hood, and it is Roman Reigns. As we hear Michael Cole yell, "Cut the feed! Cut the feed!"